Financial disclaimer. The information provided in this stream is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional financial or investment advice. We are not licensed financial advisors, and the content presented here is based on our personal opinions and experiences. Investing in stocks and other financial instruments involves risk, including the potential loss of capital. Any investment decisions you make are solely your own responsibility, and you should conduct your own research and consult with a qualified financial professional before making any investment choices. The content we share on this stream may not be accurate, complete, or up to date. Market conditions and financial regulations can change rapidly, and we cannot guarantee the accuracy or reliability of the information presented. We do not endorse or promote any specific stocks, companies, or investment strategies. Any actions you take based on the content of this stream are at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses or damages that may occur as a result. Always remember that past performance is not indicative of future results, and no investment is guaranteed to be profitable. Make informed decisions and consider your risk tolerance before investing any funds. By accessing and using this stream, you acknowledge and agree that we are not responsible for any investment decisions you make as a result of the content presented. You are encouraged to seek advice from qualified financial professionals for personalized guidance. Please invest responsibly, and only with money you can afford to lose.
Hey man, just found the next guaranteed multi-bagger.
Hey man, you found another one? What is it this time?
Come check this out.
Okay, next please. How can I help you, young man?
We want to go all in on ANGO. We know that it's a lifestyle brand portfolio company with a massive short squeeze potential.
Well, that's fantastic. A really smart decision, young man. We can put that check and it's gone.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Laughing Stock. How are you today, Dane?
Good. How are you? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I've had some technical issues. I was so stupid that I updated OBS, and now nothing works. So thank you, OBS.
Yeah, that's a real pain. It looks to me like the sounds good though.
Yeah, I hope that everything works. But if anyone is in the comment, let us know. So yeah, but how MGOL was the ticker for the intro today, and you said they were trading at 12 cents.
Yeah, they were trading at solid 12 cents.
I saw on X and stock tweets, there was a lot of people saying that you should buy now because there was a short squeeze potential here.
You know, that's where I start to get interested is under 10 cents.
Yeah,
when the stock is that low, now you know it's cheap.
Yeah, and I think yeah, well, like you said in the video, we are all in. We want to go all in.
Yeah, no, that's not financial advice. Typically, if you see something under 10 cents, that's a sign to run. Don't ever put your money there. But I don't know. These things bounce around. These are people trying to get lucky. I feel like this is the same as like some of these random crypto coins. You know, it's just stuff becomes like such a joke that like I don't know. But you never know. One of these things take off. You know, like they always say, becomes the voting machine. So. Yeah. If you can convince enough other people to pay more than you did, I mean, there's a certain particular skill to doing that. So
I tried to read up a little bit on them, and I couldn't really figure out what was going on. But I know there's been some heavy dilution. They have sold off some branches to another company. So they still had it on their websites that they were a part of, you know, the football player Messi. They were a part of his brand or something like that, but then they have actually sold it. I just, it didn't make sense to me. So yeah, 12 cents and all that story. I think I will stay away this time.
Yeah, I think that's a good move.
Yeah.
I'll wait for the next bounce.
Yeah, good. All right, so how's the week been, and maybe even if we look a bit longer, we are now in February. How's January for you?
Actually, let me just go to my portfolio here so I can just tell you the actual numbers. So, the month of January was okay, and I actually ended up almost exactly what I think the S&P is a little bit lower than me now, so I'm beating the S&P, so I'll take that.
Yeah.
But 1 month was just shy of 3%,
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, this was a tough week for me, particularly just because Monday DeepSeek came out and that tanked everything. And then it kind of all pulled back. So everyone's kind of like, how big of a deal is this? I don't think we know just yet. So the markets sold off quick. I made a mistake that day. I sold a few things earlier in the morning just because I wanted to lock in some of the gains, which I guess isn't a mistake. But I should have waited for my stop loss because they did come back and I would have done better if I had just held them. So a mistake, but not. It was kind of the first time I had ran into that where I thought there was possibly a thesis change. So I think in the future, what I'll do is I'll keep my, stop loss where I had it as opposed to just trying to sell out and make a gain on it. I'm sure, sometimes it'll work in my favor and sometimes it will work against. But I think it would have to be like a bigger overall narrative change, like COVID or something like that, where it's like kind of you see like everything shutting down. And then, of course, so this week, too, I ended up down 2%, like right at the end of Friday. But at one point on Friday, I was up almost 1%. So the tariff plans seem to spook everybody. And, regardless of what you think about what the tariffs are going to do, obviously the market's pulled back. They're kind of hesitant towards what that's going to do to the economy. And it sounded like at first there was some talk that they were possibly going to be delayed. And then all of a sudden it was confirmed that they were going to start today, I guess. So the market's pulled back a little bit on that. And I believe Trump's actual words specifically was that he's not worried about what it's going to do to the markets in the short term. He's focused on the long-term game and he thinks this is the right move to do. So, regardless of all that, I really, that's neither here nor there. The thing that I saw is that, the markets definitely reacted to it. And when it did, I remember looking whenever the statement came out that the tariffs were going to go into effect, I looked at my account and I was like, oh, wow, I ended the week up because I was down initially from Monday and it was like a slow climb back up all week. And then at the very the last 2 hours, the whole stock market collapsed like 2 or 3% on the NASDAQ or whatever it ended up. It did come back up a little bit, but erased all the gains. So the whole week was kind of a wash. Me being up or down 2% in this style, that doesn't really mean anything to me because that fluctuates so much. But it did suck to watch the gains eliminate. I probably could have sold something there at the top, but it's tough to time it. I'm not really trying to time stuff. I'm just trying to stick to my rules. And
exactly.
How about you?
No, I experienced the same as you. We talked a lot during the week, and how crazy we checked the Nvidia before the stream. Like, was it the third largest stock right now in terms of market cap?
Nvidia, yes.
Yeah, crazy. It fell 18%, I think, on Monday, and everything just seemed to be very careful this week. I think after that happened, people wanted to maybe see where things lands and stuff like that. So I didn't really. There was a lot of there was a lot of tickers that stood out to us, I think, and I think we, like you just said, that if I was up on a lot of the picks I made this week, but ended in total probably a little bit on the minus side for me. Nothing big. It didn't hurt me too much, but I think we can talk about it later. But at one point on Monday, it was on Monday actually, I was up 10% on a ticker, and I think just a lesson there, if you manage to get a 10% in a day on such a red day, take the profit and leave, I think.
Yeah. I'd have to do some back testing to see if I think that's a sound strategy in mine. Because, typically I'm not looking for just the, kind of like the day. Usually I'm looking for out 2 to 3 days. And when I did all my back testing, most things that you held for 3 days, it was beneficial to hold it for that time period.
Yeah.
Sometimes stuff does just sell off, and I'm not afraid to take the profit too in a single day, especially if it was like a USEG type character where it really jumps in one day.
Yeah.
But we'll see as the markets tighten. I might start to consider maybe taking profits at a certain percentage, just to do it, just to lock in things, especially if it gets tougher in terms of like less breakouts and just this style not working as well. But even after all said and done, at the end of Friday, we're just at the moving average. What's the moving average here? We're like literally right at the 10-day moving average. It hasn't even really, it just tapped below it, but by like $2 on the NASDAQ's what I'm following right here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's tough to say that this is an environment. I'm still finding breakouts,
Yeah, same.
For me to be down, I was probably down maybe like 4% at the lowest point of the week. For me to gain that back and almost end up, up 1% or so, that's a 5% swing. So yes, I'm getting stopped out of things. And like I said, I took a big hit on Monday, not a big hit, but I took probably 2% loss on Monday. So that started me down for the week. And then the next like day or two, a lot of stop outs, just not great times for it. So I'm more trying to focus on when something like that occurs, maybe just taking a step back and not doing as many trades. I shouldn't have traded anything probably on Monday.
No, I
if
agree.
anything, what I'll take out of that is Monday just being such a red day. If it starts off like that in the morning, probably should just not really go into things. And then if the day turns around, sure, then you can start to get into stuff. But
maybe
I think that's more going to be my situational awareness take on it.
Yeah. Maybe just take the day off on days like that. And that news also felt, who cares what I feel, but it felt a little bit like it was gonna quickly blow over, right?
Yeah, and you never know, and that's the thing too, is like you also don't want to miss out too. So
yeah.
Overall, I mean, like I said, the market's pulled back a little bit, but it wasn't too crazy.
No, I can go into the charts here.
I'm looking at a 5-year chart right now for the NASDAQ composite, and I will say there is some large distribution days. So we definitely could be towards the top. Me and you we talked about O'Neill's book quite a bit, and O'Neill said the major way to try and call a top is you're looking for 4 to 5 distribution days within the course of a month. And just over the past 2 months or so, I see at least 3 large distribution days. So I know that's like a little bit less of a guaranteed signal, but it's kind of there.
Yeah.
So we'll see what ends up happening there.
Yeah. In terms of that market breadth indicator that I have, we are kind of in the middle of the middle lines that I have drawn on, but on the way down. So yeah, I think this week was a lot of things fell. I think the market did it have a green day this week? Do you remember?
Yeah, we did. We had 1 or 2 green days, and like I said, Friday looked like it was going to be a great day. Friday was like everything was bouncing back, and I was like, oh wow, I'm going to have finally. After a whole week of being down, I was like, wow, I might pull this off and be up this week.
Yeah.
Didn't end up happening, but still, having DeepSeek came out, as well as all these tariffs and what the possibility or possible repercussions of that is on the economy. Those are 2 pretty bearish narratives, but I would say that the market held up pretty good.
Yeah, they did.
So it makes me question how much, how much does it really matter? Going forward, we'll know. We'll see what happens Monday. If Monday starts off bearish, I'll probably start to really pull back.
Yeah.
And just kind of watch things for a little bit.
How many tickers are you in right now? I only have 1 position open right now.
I have 5.
Yeah. For me, January was my first month where I started to track everything. In the beginning I made still a lot of mistakes, but I'm on the plus side for the complete month, about like 0.6 I think I have, which is not a lot at all. I need to improve on that, but I'm actually still happy because it started out pretty bad for me by me making a lot of mistakes. and I think I am on the right path now. I think even this week, I think I've been very close to doing. This sounds a bit stupid, but I think I've been very close to doing really well. I just needed to. I need to work on my choices a bit. For example, yesterday I felt I was too hesitant in terms of I wanted like pullbacks and I didn't get them. And then I had a buy order in, and maybe I should have put it like a cent higher than I did. So I because it didn't go through. Even if my purchase order was at the current price, it didn't go through. So maybe I should have just bought to get in, because that also that particular stock ran up on me after. So I was a bit too hesitant, I think, this week in a few things. But I'm very happy with, let's say, the last couple of weeks in terms of what I have been following and what my thinking and my decisions. And I think if I continue like this, I hope February will be good, and that 0.6% does include the USEG stock for me, so that was a huge gain. So I'm not banking on getting those every month, so I just need to get more of the 10%ers and above, I think, which I've had plenty of opportunities, like I said, to take off some. But it's a struggle to, it's easy to say in hindsight, but like you said, your backtesting has shown, like, if you hold for a 3-day period, for you at least, that has been beneficial. So it's always hard when you have the 10% move up the first day. Should you take it or should you leave it there? And my decision so far has been to leave it. And then, I was in Oklo, which has run up a lot. I barely got stopped out on Monday, so that sucked a bit. And I have many examples this week that has been like that. My stops has been like, I just been stopped out, and I understand that that's how this is gonna be a bit. But yeah, and I just need to get used to it and see if I can tweak and test things a little bit. So I went through my journal just before the stream, and I saw I had a lot of the names at a very good price if I just had stayed in them.
Yeah. So, that's why it's important to reflect, because that's when you can see, should you be increasing that stop loss if your actual gains over time are worth it. And like I said, you keep a 3-to-1 risk ratio. If you're consistently seeing, if you would have had a 5% stop loss and you would have gotten 15%, that's still 3-to-1.
Yeah.
I like 3-to-1. I think it gives you a huge amount of cushion. A lot of times, my stocks don't quite hit the 3-to-1. Like, if I sell after 3 days, or it depends, because it depends on when I go in. It depends on what's going on the chart. That's just like kind of like a general rule that I'm using. But maybe I hold for 4 days or even 5 days if something's really got some legs to it. But the point being is that if you're able to reflect on it and see how much you're going to make on average, like a lot of mine don't even hit my 3-to-1 gain. They are positive though. So, if I hold something for 2 or 3 days and it ends up being a positive in a short amount of time, it's still kind of worth it in my mind. It's offsetting, my money's not in something that's losing.
I agree.
Being particular, keeping my position size. Like I said, I've been doing about 10% on position sizes, and that seems to work pretty well in terms of me not going into too many names. And it kind of forces you to be a little more thoughtful and careful with the names that you're picking. You're not just going into all kinds of names, because, I've thought about, changing it to 5% and then being able to go into 20 names. But there's a lot of things that happen on the backside with those numbers that I don't like. So I'm keeping it at 10 for now.
Yeah. I think you brought up a good point last stream, that I think it's what I should focus more on than to change any of the rules, and that's to get a better entry.
Yeah, and entry is, I have been working on what I call the cheat, and you and I have talked about this a little bit.
Yeah.
Butterfly was a good example.
Very good.
this week of that. I wanted to get in on. Hold on, let me just pull up the chart here so I can see. Obviously, there was the day that it looked like it was going to break out on Thursday, and I had put a buy order in around 390, which was the first time I was starting to get convinced it could break out. And this is a strong name, and I've told you that some of the stronger names that kind of, I guess that's where some of my nuance comes in, and where I'll start to bend some of my rules to get into some of these names, because these can take off and you might miss it if you don't get in when you do. And I was kind of happy because I decided to just kind of hold my not buy in higher, because I had missed it. I put my buy order in and it didn't trigger, because it was already actually above where I put my buy order in. I put it in at like 390, and I think the stock price was just shy of $4. And I was like, I'm not buying it for it, but I'll let it come back to me. And then the next day, I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna put the same buy order in, because it was pulling back during the morning. And I looked for around Bollinger Band. And that's where I ended up putting my buy order in. So that's like my cheat. That's me essentially using something. And if you look at the previous chart, you can see that it touches how I have my Bollinger Band. I use the 5-day moving average for my centerpiece. I had seen that had bounced off that multiple times. So that's where I put my buy order in, and it triggered. And it pulled back towards the end of the day, and I ended up at a slight loss for the day. But I'm up because I bought in so low. I bought in all the way down to and I wasn't quite up. No, I wasn't quite a Bollinger Band, actually. I bought above that, but it was closer to my original pricing.
Yeah.
But my point being is now I'm up quite a bit in the name, and really it was on a pullback, which typically isn't my style with breakouts. But in some of these stronger names, and sometimes when you have like a really strong move, there's the potential for breakout. And there was such heavy volume on Thursday that I thought it was worth taking the risk. A lot of times something pulls back on day 2, and then on day 3 finally continues the breakout. So, and if you look at its previous chart, there's a few or just look at the longer chart, you'll see there's examples of that happening. So it's just one of those things that like you kind of take the risk there. No matter what, my stop loss is the same. So to be honest, my risk is still the same. It's not necessarily the same setup that I like to be in. But it's another way to get into some of these positions where I miss it on the first day. And I don't necessarily let that like affect how I view it though. And I've done that a few times now, and it's worked out. So it's possibly another way of me getting into things and not chasing. Because that's a big thing, is you see a name, the setup's perfect, but like for this to essentially break out on Thursday, it would have had to be up over, I don't know, almost 20% for it to actually break out, or over 20%. And I'm not buying there at 20% up. 30%. So for me, I'll wait for something to happen where it allows me to get in. And if I miss it and it ends up breaking out, oh, well, I'm happy I didn't try and chase it in, because when you chase something in with a tight stop loss, the chance of getting knocked out is too high.
Yeah.
Because, if you're up 25% and it can easily pull back down to 15 and then continue back up to 30, there's just a lot of volatility in these. So I'm not trying to do that. And I know like Qualamaji says to use the lows of the day. I actually think that creates too much of a stop loss to me. It limits the tickers I can get into, because when you're so focused on ADR and ATR, the size of the positions you can go in start to shrink down. Then you're dealing with multiple positions of different sizes, and your risk reward, you have to calculate this all offhand at the time. And I'm trying to keep it simple. Right now, I've been able to like quickly calculate in my head exactly what I want to do, where my stop loss is going to be without hesitation. And I think that's benefited me. And I've caught a lot of names by doing that. So that's one way I've been kind of dealing with it, because it's tricky, and you will get stopped out. And I know you said this is like your first month of really working at this. And the stops they're annoying, but at the same time, go back through all the names you've been stopped out of and look how many are down from there.
It's
and,
many.
How many times you actually saved a ton of money because you didn't not follow your stop loss.
Yeah. And I saw I have and this, I know this is low, but like I said, the beginning of the month was me doing a lot of stupid mistakes, and I still do. But I saw I had like I don't know what you call it, but I had like 17% win rates on my picks, so that needs to improve. But I think also you know, if we can go and check Oklo, for example. You saw on Monday that got hit like 20% down or something. I think it was. Yeah, even more, 25%. So it was a bit also that Monday messed up a little bit for me because I don't think anyone expected that to happen, right?
No, and there's times that like that stuff happens to you, but being that that's the oddball out, you can't sit there and look at that one example and think I need to change my whole strategy in
No.
case this happens.
No.
If it happens all the time to you, then yeah, you need to adjust something for it. But if it's just a one-off example, that's not, you don't like, that's one thing that I've, I really focus on is how replicatable are the mistakes that I make. Is it something I'm doing often enough? Because if I am, it's something you really need to work on. If it's a one-off thing, I don't want to adjust things to account for that one-off thing and, increase issues that are going to pop up otherwise now because I did that.
Yeah. No, so that's what I
and we've
said.
talked about it too. I started this year off by making two massive mistakes. One, I didn't follow a stop loss on something and waited way too long. And I know I've said a million times not to do that, which is why now I haven't made that mistake again. Yeah. So hopefully that's really ingrained in my head. Yeah. And second, to my sell rules. I was staying in names too long. I was getting greedy. I had big returns on things and then pull back, and I'd end up losing a ton if I had just sold out when I was supposed to. So, like I said, I started the year off down 9%, and I've clawed my way back up at the end of January. I was almost up 3%. So if I hadn't made those mistakes, I could have ended this month up maybe 5-6%. Which if you do that, that's if you do that for the entire year, I mean, that right there's a 60% return at 5%. 60% is fine. I'll be happy with 60%. I'm shooting for 100, but 60 is good. 50 is like my minimum threshold. I want to make sure I get over 50 each year. Because at those type of returns, you can really build an account. Now, obviously, I want to shoot for way higher than that. My goal is to be around 200. Because with swing trading, I've done the math, and you can definitely hit 200. Now it depends on the market. If it's a tough market for breakouts, I'm not gonna put myself to that level. If it's the recover from COVID or something like that, where everything just exploded and the interest rates were so low that it made no sense not to put all your money in stocks. Yeah. During those periods, I'm gonna be shooting for 200%. Yeah. But you can't get it every year just because of the actual market. So no. But no matter what, I'm going to shoot for at least 50 to 100. Yeah.
No, that's why I said like the second half of the month, I'm actually pretty happy with it because I'm pretty sure I'm on the right path in terms of my selections and stuff like that now. So let's see how it goes. There's still a lot to learn and things to improve on. One thing that I saw yesterday was CURI, CURI, and that was one of the ones I talked about earlier where I had let me think. No, this wasn't the one, but I waited for a pullback here, which maybe turned out to be a mistake because I saw it much earlier than where it is right now, and I talked with you about it, and you said, "Oh yeah, this one looks really strong, right?"
Yes, and that's, like I said, that's another thing too. After I've been doing this, CURI's a name I've been in multiple times, and I understand how strong of a stock it can be. I think I said this earlier in the stream, and I've definitely said it other times, but I do bend the rules for specific stocks because some stocks are just strong. Like, when I make my watch list, it's not like I'm always looking at stocks only from my watch list. I see people always are like, these are the 5 stocks I'm looking at on my watch list. My watch list is almost 100 names. But the reason I'm putting them on my watch list isn't because those are the only names I'm looking at. They're because they are following patterns. They do show really good strength. They usually have something fundamentally or narrative-wise that's turned the company around, and it's why everyone's so hyped about it. That's why it has all this momentum. And for those stocks, when they start to exhibit any of the signals that it could possibly break out, CURI was up, I think, 10% when I bought it, which is on the high side for me. I don't like to buy much over 10%.
Yeah.
But you pointed it out to me, I think. I think you texted me, it was like, hey, how does CURI look to you? And I'm like, I literally saw it, bought it like immediately.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, you even bought it at here. And I was like, yeah, because to me, it doesn't matter. This is a clear breakout. And it's a really strong stock. It just tends to do well.
Yeah.
And I ended up catching a huge return because of it. Now, it did pull back during most of the day. It was up almost, I think, 30% at one point, and then pulled back down. I think it ended the day around 19%, it says. So, still a strong day. And it looks like this could be the start of the next move up. There's definitely going to be some resistance around between $2.75 and $3 based on that last consolidation period. Yeah. So it might not break out much more than that. But at the same time, too, if it does break through that point, this could go high. Yeah. So these are one of the names that, like I said, even though I'm not trying to chase things, you learn that there's slight exceptions to your rules. And the other thing that I always think now is because my stop loss is locked in at 3%, I don't like to chase things, and I don't like to chase things because I don't want to volatility-wise get kicked out of something because I'm chasing it. But no matter what, my risk is still the 3%. It doesn't matter. So if I get into one of these things and it looks really strong, it doesn't look like it's going to pull back, that to me is worth taking on the extra risk of getting stopped out possibly, with the fact that I know that if it's really strong, it's going to push probably back or past right where I bought. And then it doesn't matter that my stop loss is so tight.
Yeah. Another very similar that I did actually take was ISSC, but I made a mistake there too. I think because I bought too high up, because this is the one I had an order into around, actually a bit higher than the level it is at right now too. But I ended up buying a bit higher than I thought I would initially do. And I still did it, and then it dropped on me a little bit straight after, but let's see where it goes. This still looks good, a bit similar in terms of style and the volume here recently also. It looks a bit strong, this one too, don't you think?
Yeah, and ISSC, I also was watching it, and by the time I had seen it, it was actually kind of a similar around to the price it is here now. This might have been actually a good one to buy at the end of the day, but I wasn't looking at buying anything at the end of the day because there's a chance Monday is similar to this last Monday, and the end of the day on Friday kind of turned bearish. We'll see what the futures look like on Monday morning and whatnot. Yeah. But it kind of popped and then it pulled back, and I was watching to see if I'd want to get into it, and it just never really showed strength. There was really low volume. Like if you pull up the 1 minute chart, you have a 1 minute that you can pull up.
Yeah.
Like, do you see how after like 11:30, there was a ton of volume. There was a bunch of selling kind of around 11:30, and that was just because it had jumped all the way up to like $12. And then after that, the volume just goes away. Like from like noon on, there's very little volume.
Yeah.
So when I pull up one of these names and I all of a sudden see the volume kind of dissipate, which I think the first time I looked at this was after lunch, it was probably around like 1 o'clock. I saw that the volume had really died out. So if I don't see strength at that point, even though the name looks on like the daily, it's a great breakout, I'm kind of hesitant sometimes on those days to get in because these are the ones that can pull back pretty strong too. Now, ISSC is a name I've been watching for a long time. It is on my list of ones to keep an eye on just because it does move in that stair-step pattern. It's not the cleanest, but you'll notice too, if you look back to the end of December, it had a move upwards and then it pulls back and then it breaks out again. So this could be, if that's how it works with this name, it might be one of the ones that have to pull back a little bit. Does it still look pretty good right now? Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day at 5%. So this will be one I'm definitely watching for on Monday. And if it continues to break out, we're in fresh territory. There's no resistance here.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the only thing that's, I guess, slightly concerning is it's already made a pretty big move, but not that crazy. It went from, around $8 to like 10 or 11. So, like a 20% gain so far in the past 2 months. Yeah. But that's not big enough where I'm like, you can't get into this. Its market cap's only 200 million. It's got a lot of room to run.
Yeah.
So this one's interesting to me. I'm just going to see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, in the bottom of the day, touch the 10-day moving average and look at the volume all of a sudden it found.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, those are all like things I'm watching, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that let's see on Monday what happens here. But yeah, those two were a bit like the lessons for me this week. I think that I was a bit hesitant on them, and especially CURI. I should have jumped in. It would have been up already 10% for me, I think.
Yeah, like I said, CURI at the point when it was at its high was one of the reasons. CURI and BFLY were at their high around like noon. It was right before I went to lunch. So I went to lunch and I'm like, oh, good, I'm up like almost a whole percent. And then came back at the end and it all just collapsed. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
there goes that.
Yeah.
So
another crazy move on Friday was PLBY.
Yeah, and PLBY was one of the ones that for me, and it did really pull back. By the time I had seen it, it was already up way too much. And I think I saw PLBY around 20% or whatever it started the day. It was in the upper teens, and it was a little too high for me. And I was like, I'll see if it pulls back. And it ended up really going high, and then obviously pulled back all at the end of the day, like everything else did. So right now, though, it looks like it's an interesting place to look at.
Yeah. But
we're at the $2 mark, and this is the last form of resistance here. I know there's a bunch of buyers from yesterday, but who knows? If it shows solid volume here, it would definitely be interesting. So this is one I'll definitely watch as well on Monday.
Yeah. How much do you care about the kind of like a failed breakout here yesterday?
Oh, it didn't break out, but that doesn't mean it won't.
Yeah.
Like if you go back to the end of October, it had a huge breakout. And if you looked at it on the 28th, there's a really small candle, and it's right before it made the big move up on either, I don't know, like the 31st or whatever that was. Must have been a weekend right there. But it showed signs of almost getting to the breakout. It touched that 200 moving average and then came back down. But then the very next day it broke out. And it gapped up and everything. So still, I probably would have missed that one just because of the gap up. But my point being is that these are the kind of names that sometimes you have to try and see the signal right before it's going to break out, and sometimes it just works.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying it's going to. I'm going to wait for a breakout, but right now it's at that $2 mark. It's like perfect because it's right where I want it to be just to start a breakout. So by the time it's up just a few percent, if I see it and it's up a few percent, it might be worth going into because it's right on the cusp of breaking out anyways. And, that means it's a good one that I'm not chasing. It ended the day up 18% and it just got to the breakout point, like breakout points around $2, and it had to be up 18% to get there. So just by nature of the way this is moving, it's tough for me to get in because I'm not trying to chase. And, I'm not trying to buy much below a breakout. Sometimes I can cheat, but I tend not on a stock like this. PLBY's just starting to become a strong stock.
Yeah.
And it's just not there for me yet. It's not where I put it in that category.
It was up on some news that they converted some debt, I think.
Yeah, and I mean that's good, but we know from Deep Value that just creates a longer runway for it. It doesn't mean anything actually has changed in the business and made it profitable.
No.
So
we
it's
also
not
know
like I
that
expect this to go to $10.
Yeah. We also know that there's been a lot of criticism about management here, and they also had a recent history where they put in a poison pill, I think, because the son, one family member of Hugh Hefner, I think, wanted to try to purchase it, and it triggered a poison pill or something like that.
Right.
So there's a lot of criticism against the current management, I think. But when something moves like this, like you said, this is on the list now, and if it continues with strong volume on Monday, let's see if we can maybe manage to jump in on it.
Yeah.
We talked about BFLY, right? I saw at the end of the day, I saw Eastman Kodak Company, KODK. What do you think about this setup right here?
It's a little choppy, but it does
Yeah.
it does have the overall bigger stair step motion. Um, but I would want a clean breakout on this because, for instance, if you look over the past year, you get June, sometime in July. There's a bunch of times it was really close to breaking out around the $6 mark and failed to. And it didn't actually break out until the end of November. And on that one, you can kind of clearly see it breaks out.
Yeah.
So same thing with this. This could move once again in the same pattern. It could take 5 months for this to finally break through. So looks decent, but I'm gonna want this to hit like 790,
Yeah. On
$8
heavy
before I'm
volume.
gonna start to really take interest in it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there is volume coming in. So
Yeah, there is.
and selling's been pretty weak.
Yeah. I'm just I put it on my list together with I asked you also about the KLTR, those two spikes here in the beginning of the month in January, and if you ignore those when you look at the consolidation phase, or if you wanted to break up above them, and yeah, I think your answer there made a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing. I mean, it's kind of like it has that spike there and it fails right away, and there's pretty strong selling on that one on
Yeah.
those days following. So it does look pretty good though. I mean, everything's consolidated, moving averages together. The 50-day moving average is caught up now. So those are kind of the signs you want to see, and it bounced right off that 50-week or 50-day moving average and made it to 250. So just another good one to watch.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I think you've improved quite a bit, Johnny, because you're pointing out some of these names. I think you're on to some of these being right on the cusp of what you'd want to see.
Yeah, I think that's what I really felt this in my process also, that just if you go back a month, I was way worse in picking tickers than I think I am now, and now I just need to execute more correctly and accurate, I think.
Yeah, and like I said, and I've said this on the stream a few times. I used to look at a chart and think that it was the actual like pattern of the chart. Everyone talks about these high type flags, and I think that's why so many people fail at technicals, because they're looking for these like drawings essentially, and like I don't give a shit about that. Like I don't care at all. I'm trying to look at it and try and pay attention to the volume, pay attention to the moving averages, think of it in terms of supply and demand, resistance and support. If you focus on those, it's going to allow you to see what's going on. It's going to allow you to understand how many buyers are there, how many sellers are possibly left at those prices, who has like the power to take advantage of it and really sell at these different periods, which could stop a breakout from happening. If you focus on the charts in that way, now don't get me wrong, in terms of the general, it has the move up, it consolidates sideways and then moves up again. Like that pattern does exist on most of these, but it's not really about that pattern that I care about. I mean, sure, it catches my eye right away and then makes me look in deeper, but that's just like the starting, like it should have that at the very beginning.
Yeah. And
it's not, that doesn't matter so much.
No, it's just to dive in deeper to see if the other boxes are ticked. You start with a pattern, right? And I think I saw actually in the newspaper here yesterday they wrote a case about some amateur investor who started with technical analysis and had done apparently well with it. And some of the financial experts then came to say like, oh yeah, but there's a lot of criticism in technical analysis and I don't think it works, and they had to point out like the oppositional side to it, and his criticism was a bit like you said now though, that you don't care how you draw things on a chart. And if you go, I have seen this myself in some Discord servers and stuff like that, like people draw lines however however they want, and they even say like it doesn't matter how you draw them, just draw them. And it's like, okay, what's really the point then? Everyone can see with their eyes that the pattern is there, right? So his point about criticizing technical analysis was that if you ask like 20 different people about it, they will give you 20 different ways to look at the chart. But that criticism, I feel like you can also say for deep value guys, you and I, you know, we saw different things on the fundamental stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think of everything in terms of averages now. Like you've asked me a few times and you're like, hey, would you have waited until this exactly hit, like, let's say $2 and it breaks out there? And for this stock, like, you know, would you wait exactly for 282 where it really breaks out of that peak there? And in my mind, I'm like, no, like, you know, sure, it's a number to think about, but like, as it starts to get around there, if it looks really good, if it has a lot of volume coming in, you know, that might be where I take my position. I might say, okay, it's good enough, it broke. But there's other times where I would buy maybe before that, because, you know I have to get in. If it's going to break out, I got to be in before a certain percentage because I'm not going to chase. So there's like, you know, things like that I take into consideration. Or maybe it's hit that number or it's been there close a bunch of times and I want to see what it does around there. You know what I mean? Like maybe it gets to 280 and it drops right back down. Well, that's probably going to make me pretty bearish. I'm not going to, you know, I'm going to be like, no, there's a bunch of guys who are getting that break even and they're just trying to get out there. Yeah. Now, if you look at the volume here, so if you look at the day in the start of the year, it's like January 1st almost, or 2nd, one of the two, or whatever it is, December 31st. Yeah. You can see there's like 2.5 million volume on that day. Now, the very next day, there's about 2 million in sales, and then it's followed by the next few days of almost millions of sales, just constantly. Yeah. Now, yes, there is some buying there, and it comes back from breaking below that 50-day moving average. But what my point is I can quickly look at that and be like, okay, I had about, let's say, I don't know, 4 million in volume between the 2 days where it broke out. Then I have just over that, it looks like, in terms of distribution, so selling. And then you once again have a bunch of buyers come right back in to put it right back at the moving average. So in my mind, if I just do some simple math, I can figure between buyers and sellers there, it's kind of a wash. So there's probably not a ton of resistance once this gets up to 2.80, because most people have already sold out at that point, or there's a few holders, but there shouldn't be that much left over because of just the simple numbers. I can just calculate how much should be left around that period. So if it gets up to 280 and then all of a sudden I see it pull back and I see that there's decent volume on that pullback, like let's say there's a 200,000 K pullback right there and it pulls back pretty good, but then all of a sudden it finds strength again. What that tells me is those were the last of the people who were like, I'm getting out right now. I broke even. I bought at the way top. I shouldn't have done that. These are bag holders. Well, now there's probably not a lot of sellers who aren't going to hold anyways. Like if anyone's left holding it, they think it's going to make money in the long run. They're either investors or they're just crazy and they want more. You know, you're trading this and you held it that long just to try and get a profit. Like, good for you. Yeah. But the time starts to come into it, and that's the whole point of trading. You're not trying to wait these long time. Like if you got to look at it differently from an investor's perspective versus a trader's perspective. Most traders are out of this instantly as soon as it breaks down. Investors are in it because they're looking at the fundamentals of the narrative or the story. Or, I mean, same difference, but whatever. But they're going to hold this thing regardless. So once it gets up to that 280, like I said, if I see that and all of a sudden I see the volume start coming in on the buy side after there's some kind of pullback there, to me, that means it's a buy. It means before it even has broken out, the chances of it breaking out are sky high because of just the volume that's there. And that's why I say focus more on the supply demand side of what's going on at that moment in time, not just on what the hell the chart's doing. Don't just, just looking at the stupid bars and stuff, like who gives a shit? That doesn't mean anything. You have to know what's going on in the background.
And the last time it was at this level was in August 2022. So it will be interesting to see if this continues upwards. Yeah.
And just to my point on that as well, you're not always going to be right. No. I'm going to go through and I might come to that conclusion and I might buy it, and as soon as I buy it, it drops another 10%. And then, I can be like, well, nice job, idiot, you're wrong. But that's the whole point of the stop loss. It's okay if I'm wrong, you know.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it was just about as good as a scenario as I could find myself being in. And the last time it happened in November, it went up from $1.40 to, I don't know, just over $2. So like a 50% gain in 3 days. So, you know, if I'm able to capture a 50% gain on a hunch that looks really good to me versus, you know, taking a 3% stop loss, I'll take that. I'll take that any day.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
that's over a 10 to 1 risk ratio.
yeah.
And you
That's
start finding
kinda-
that, you know, 10 to 1 risk ratio. These are the ones that you make really good money on. It changes your whole month around. Like you have so much money to play with now. You have so many other trades you can take on as soon as you catch one of these.
Yeah.
So, and who knows? Even if I only end up 5%, 10%, it doesn't matter. Then it's a gain, and I was right. I was right in the aspect that there was just enough more volume coming in that it did somewhat break out, even if it's not some big return.
Yeah. This at least has so many things going for it that it should be on a watch list for what we are doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, you bring up a great point, and I know you're privy to it too. And us as more narrative / fundamental, you know, backgrounds is there's a quick chance that, you know, I start to see this get up towards 280, and I'm going to pull it up, just see if there's any news, see if there's, you know, or get some context on the fundamentals of what's been happening over the past year. If you're able to quickly look at those numbers and you're able to quickly look at what the narrative is on this, you can figure out real quick, like, okay, why would an investor be staying in this? And if those guys are staying in, then you got real chance for breakout, because now the traders are going to push that price higher, because the real big holders, the actual float that's not normally there, those guys aren't selling.
Yeah.
You know, if 90% of a stock is held by investors and only 10% of floats open, well, that float, if it's all buyers, will skyrocket the price.
Yeah.
And that's why momentum occurs, is because the actual share count, the actual supply is down, even though it could have, you know, hundreds of millions of shares outstanding.
Yeah. And on this, like in terms of the news and stuff like that, this according to TradingView at least, they have earnings on 20th of February, which is not far away. So, and I think this will, if it moves, it will move before that. But exactly that's my point. Maybe this will be worth to check out if there has been any guidance or something in the last earnings report. I see here on TradingView that they have a history of delivering, over deliver on the estimates at least, and maybe this is one of those that will pull up a bit before the earnings, and then you have time to sell before the 20th of February, you know. So yeah, it's on the list. Another one I'm in, Dane, but that's more because of my deep value play is still SSRM. I'm up 80% on it, but I think also, I'm not sure. What do you think about this chart?
I mean, it looks pretty good to me. It's not quite to a breakout period. It looks like it might form a cup and handle here.
Yeah, a bit.
But we'll see. I mean, it's had some pullbacks and then it's broken out from there. And I mean, if you just zoom out a little bit and you look at like a 3-year chart, I still think that this is going to return to this $15 area.
Yeah. My goal has,
like it will. I mean, and even going back a few more years, it was all the way up in the 20s.
Yeah.
So,
my goal on this has always been around 10. I will reassess if it hits, but that's based on the deep value style. This is not from the swing trading style. I saw the pattern now forming, and you know, it's just I just put it on my list as well. I'm not sure even if it breaks out that I will purchase more, but because I think my average is 450 or something.
Yeah, I'm looking at a weekly chart right now, and the 100 moving average weekly is at 927. So if it breaks above 9, that's a weekly chart, and in the bigger time frame, the more weight it holds. So I mean, this could really do well in that scenario.
Yeah.
So
And they also have earnings soon, and my whole thesis from when I entered was the development in what happened in Turkey. We don't need to talk about that now because we have covered it in depth, I think. But there's still some catalysts that can send this up a lot, I think, and of course down too. But let's see what happens.
yeah, and I mean, being a commodity, you're at the weight of that essentially.
Yeah, I just saw there was some recent news on them in terms of what happened in Turkey, that it was like a third party. There was some investigations, and they concluded that it was a third party's mistake that caused the accident. So SSRM, I think, at least they were not in the wrong like themselves. It was someone else that had done a poor job, I guess.
Yeah.
Because there was
it's I'm not going to place blame on anyone specifically for that because I don't know. And
no, but there was a danger of
tragedy happened, so I don't want to.
Yeah,
But
there was a danger of lawsuits and stuff like that I think they are now trying to avoid.
right, and I mean, no matter what, a corporation's going to do that,
Yeah.
say that. So
Yeah.
they also hired the third party to come in and do it. So
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So there's that's why I say it's not really about pointing blame here.
Yeah.
I'm more just focused on the future. Like if they get that mine up and running, and as gold and silver continue to move up, it only any precious metals, it just continues to benefit them. So
Yeah.
that's more kind of how I'm thinking of it. And
Yeah.
this slow kind of trickle up. It's been about a year now since everything
Yeah,
happened.
it's a year. Yeah.
So this slow move upwards makes me think that it's probably past most of that, and we can start really focusing on just what it's going to start to produce. Like earnings, I think are going to be big catalysts for them.
Yeah. I know we both looked at Redwire, right? RDW.
Yeah, I actually am still in that.
Yeah.
Luckily, I bought in pretty low on this one because this is another one. I was way up on it by at some point on Friday, and then it pulled way back.
Pulled back again.
I'm not sure exactly what my stop is, but it's probably close here. But if you look at it, the higher lows look great.
Yeah.
Good volume coming in.
Increasing too.
It got up to 26. That's the thing. Some of these names I'm in right now, everything pulled back, but I'm really happy I'm in these names. All these names showed really good strength. So
yeah, they did.
And Monday's either gonna be a total burst or bust, and or it's gonna be a really strong start to the week.
Yeah. And they also had news that they have partnered with Virgin Galactic for some kind of deal. I didn't read through it, but for Delta class research lockers.
Yeah, and the thing that's annoying about Redwire to me is I've gotten stopped out of this twice. So I had to have it hit a certain percent just to even break even. So for me, I do need it to be kind of a strong stock. And I've put a rule in place now that it's my 3-strike rule. It's like baseball, that if I get stopped out of something 3 times, the wash sale starts to make the risk reward ratio so crazy. Like, if you've gotten stopped out 3 times, that means you're down 9% on it, for me at least, which means I have to get a 30% return. Not to say it can't happen, but a 30% return here is pretty big.
More tricky.
So yeah, it just starts to lower your odds. So I start to eliminate the name from my category of stocks to pick. That doesn't mean anybody else can't get in. It doesn't mean it won't break out. But I have to look at it like that. So
yeah. I saw this. Actually, I think throughout the week I've seen a lot of these finance and insurance charts, and they look very similar, all of them. But I'm in MBI now. I mean, I don't mean I have a position, but I'm looking at MBI.
Yeah, this was one I contemplated getting into. I don't remember quite why I didn't.
But I saw a lot of similar charts to this in the same sector, so it's moving in the finance world, I guess.
I think my big thing with MBI is it kept looking like it was close, but it didn't show enough strength. Like I feel like the past few days, it got right to where it looked like it could break out and just wouldn't. So sometimes I see that and I'm just hesitant because I want to see a real breakout.
Yeah. But do you care about like different sectors and stuff anymore, or do you just ignore all of that?
Not in the fact that like I know some people put like a ton of weight on that. Like I keep it in the back of my mind. So for instance, like, I've talked about some of the plays I've seen. Like I saw all the Chinese names during that one period come through and they were all really strong. So yes, that allows me to bend the rules a little bit because I just know that whole sector is hot. I see like you're talking like, finance insurance type companies, all of a sudden, if I see a couple of them strong, I'll keep that in mind. If I see a name that's in that sector, that's leading in terms of momentum, that's going to put a lot of pressure on me to focus on that over another one. But it's not like I only will buy in hot sectors. I won't buy because the sector is not hot. That doesn't necessarily mean all that much. It's just more, I'm just keeping that in my general context of what's going on.
Yeah. And old old friend of ours, I think, FTK. I don't know. I put it on my watch list.
Flowtech, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Flowtech's right there too. I will say, I mean, MBI definitely looks close. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Really strong volume.
Yeah, had
to get up to that $7 mark here. So another good one to watch.
Yeah. I get in relative volume yesterday. I had 516%.
Right. So
pretty strong move.
That's the kind of thing where it's pushing right up to that line of resistance there, and it's already failed that line of resistance twice. Which, well, I guess once, because the first time was just getting up there. But my point being is, like, after you start to see it a few times, you got to think all those people at those levels are selling out. So now the people who are in here, their average cost basis is that much higher. And once you see that, the chance of it being able to break through on momentum starts to go up.
Yeah. And maybe because like I told you, I saw a lot of these charts. So maybe like you said, to keep it in the back of your head that the sector could move up now. If the holding period is just 3 days, you can get something out of this.
Yeah.
What else did we do this week? I think we saw ISSC, right?
I took RF Industries. That one's a nice clear breakout to me.
Sorry, which one?
RFIL.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a good one.
And then I've been still in NPPTF, which had an annoying pullback, but it's one of those names that's kind of all over the place. And we'll see. It may be that I may be stopped out here.
Sorry, which ticker was that?
Too much.
I didn't catch the name.
Oh, NPPTF. It's Neptune Digital Assets.
Oh yeah, got it. Yeah. Oh, this one, yeah.
And showed strength on Wednesday and Thursday, and Friday kind of pulled back. I realized technically I should have gotten out of this on Friday. So this is a mistake on me. But we'll see if it's able to pull back. If not,
so you took it on Wednesday?
Yes, I took it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And now in hindsight, I realized I should have. At the end of the day on Friday, I looked quick and I didn't think this was on day 3 for me.
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't look at the
that was the
charts.
one.
I just was looking at my account. So that's kind of my bad. That's a mistake I made. But we'll see. Maybe hopefully I get lucky on that, and it tends to have a bounce day on Monday.
Yeah.
As I said, let's just hope Monday's a nice strong day.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
Let's get a good start to February here.
But I think you were up on OPFI, right?
Yes, OPFI.
Because to me,
I bought that on that breakout on what was that, Tuesday?
yeah, okay, yeah,
And it kind of stinks because it pulled back quite a bit on Thursday, which is when I sold. So one thing that you and I have talked about is on my day of selling things, should I be pay attention to the intraday chart and see if I can capture kind of a high of the day?
yeah,
Because if I would have sold closer to the top there, it would have been a big difference in what the actual return was, being that it ended up more down 14, so almost $1 difference. So something to consider. Definitely on my days where I'm going to sell something anyways on those names. Maybe I will start looking at an intraday chart, and if something really starts to pull back on that day from a high, I might just sell it at that point.
yeah. We experienced that with CRSR yesterday, right?
Yeah, Corsair Gaming. Yeah, that was another one. Same thing. And to be honest, Corsair hasn't even technically really broken out from here.
No.
We bought Corsair as a bit of a cheat on Wednesday, correct?
Yeah, I was in this one, and it just didn't move like we wanted, I think. And I sold out yesterday because I held it for 3 days, but I could have taken like a 4% gain on it, I think. I had at some point 4 or 5%, and that was yesterday. And then it ended up with a small loss for me instead.
Yeah, I basically was break even on it, but yeah, I mean it's one of those things. What are you supposed to do? You can't necessarily predict it.
No.
But
this one also had volume.
Consolidating in that 10 moving average is moving up. This is another one to watch for an actual breakout from.
Yeah, I agree. And when we talk about that, I think also Grinder, right? Grinder, I was also very similar. I was in it because if you look at Friday a week ago, then it had this strong volume and it looked like it was about to break out. And then it just didn't, but it's still on my watch list because this, I think,
Sorry,
I think it looks. Huh?
What was your ticker?
GRND. It's a bit big in market cap though, 3 billion. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I guess I'm not seeing what ticker you're saying.
GRND, you get it?
Oh, Grinder. Sorry, I just didn't hear what you said.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but Grinder's one of those ones. It is a strong stock. I do think it's getting to the part where I start to think that the breakouts here are really weak.
Yeah. But I just kept it. This was I think a break even for me, but I kept it on the watch list. I just it never broke out and properly. But it has moved up a lot though in for a long time. That it is in a general upward trend, you know.
Yeah, no, everything. I mean, in terms of a chart and the fact that it's had breakouts look good.
Yeah.
The only thing is, to me, it looks like it's starting to get to kind of a tougher area. Like, I'm counting on here. I see 1, 2, 3. I think I would argue that there's been 4 breakouts on this stock. And there's been all kinds of little moves in between there. So once you get around the 5th breakout of a stock, it gets tough. There really has to be something going on with the business for it to start to push out of this area.
Yeah, but is this a case where you would actually take the time and do a proper deep value style investigation on this, or is that just like you move on to something else that looks better?
I think I would move on, and it's only because there's so many other options out there in terms of what I can look at. But this would be, see, stocks in this area, they start to cross over into more of a value style to me, where, I want to know what the business is, I want to know the fundamentals, and it's going to go in more of a longer term hold.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. This was a great one after that second breakout, and yeah, you can call there's another breakout like at the end of October-ish, and then also another one mid-December. Somewhere in there, I think would be where I'd start to be interested more in a fundamental type buy or even a growth buy on those days. And that's more like William O'Neill's. Like if you zoom out to like a weekly chart, you can see it a little bit better.
Yeah.
But on those, that's where I'd probably buy it and then be holding it and then just following it to see if I can find strength. I mean, who knows? This might get one big final spike.
Yeah.
Which I can see happening. It does, but it all depends at this point too. Like now you want to follow earnings. You want to start to see how, how do they continue to perform? This will only continue to grow past this point if it becomes a strong business, because what Grindr is, you kind of know what the upside is. Do you think a million people are, is there going to be extra couple million people signing on to Grindr? Probably not.
No.
So I don't know. I kind of think of it like that.
I read here on the news though that they had a bit late in January they had like boost in their revenue forecast, so it has a little bit of momentum, and the next earnings period is 10 of March, so you have some room there if something happens before the actual earnings. Because I see in their history they've disappointed a bit on their actual earnings.
And I will say there was pretty, I'm just looking at the weekly real quick. And last week there was pretty strong volume in terms of distribution, and the stock didn't really move much.
No, it didn't. But and we talked about it, I remember, on the day that I got in, because that was some solid volume and it did not move.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, it's one to watch. It's a little big for me. I see once you start to get into a couple billion, I mean, sure, you could buy this and it could make it to 5 billion, even 6 billion. It could double from here. But it just becomes less likely. So instead of trying to find one like this that's less likely, I might sit out and look for something else that's a little more volatile.
Yeah.
And on top of that, all the other things weigh on my decision in terms of like, could this be overdone now? Like I said, there's 2 or 3 breakouts I can see clearly in the last year that would be obvious signs to me. And don't get me wrong, it looks like it's in a nice consolidation phase.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not saying it's not there. We'll just have to see. I haven't really seen the volume contract yet. I want to see the volume contract before there's going to be another breakout.
Yeah, it's been on the average for a bit, and then it got that spike, but it didn't move. So
yeah, I think this just needs a little more time. I think once the moving averages catch up, and if the volume can slow down, that would become more interesting.
Yeah.
And Grindr is a strong stock. I will say that it's a strong stock.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think that was kind of what I was been like the most. Did we talk about PL? No, we haven't. PL was another one,
Planet
right?
Labs, no, and Planet Labs was one of the ones Monday crashed, and I ended up bouncing back out.
Yeah, I got just stopped out on it, and it still annoys me, but yeah, okay, it happens.
Yeah, and then the only reason it did break out on Wednesday, and I guess later in the day I could have gotten into it because it pulled back all day. But a lot of times when I see that big pullback like that, that's not necessarily a bullish signal. I will say, to me, it got all the way down to the moving average for my Bollinger Band. So I definitely could have put an order in there and tried to do a pullback. And that's typically the only time I'll do pullbacks. I look to see how often something follows one of the moving averages. And And so far that's been successful doing it in that style. Don't get me wrong, it can fail, but I'm not hopping in at the start of that day when it was up so much and then watch it pull back all day and then hop in, because I mean the chance of it continuing to break down is pretty high too.
Yeah.
So I didn't get in this one, and yes, it ended up the week pretty strong. So
Yeah. I took it here on Friday 24, and I took it at I was pretty happy with everything actually. I took it at 494. And you can see on that Monday then where everything crashed, I just got a little bit stopped because I raised the stop. I raised the stop from -3% to break even. And that made me stopped out. So that was another stupid decision in hindsight. But it's so hard on that Monday where everything seems to crash. I was pretty happy with the decision, you know. I was a bit frustrated that I didn't sell it because I had a 10% on it. But yeah.
Well, if you were up 10%, you moved it to break even. That's not necessarily that you did anything wrong. One thing I will say that I do is, and once again, I know I refer to the Bollinger Band a lot, but because it's statistical. It's not because it has anything to do with the numbers. But this one has touched off the 5-day moving average on my Bollinger Band so many times. If my break even point was right there, I might adjust my break even so it won't trigger right when you hit Bollinger Band.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of times that there's going to be resistance and support there.
Yeah.
So for me, I might not have adjusted it on this one because I don't want to get stopped out right at one of the obvious points that people are going to be buying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely something I should, because this annoys me. Let me check the percentage for 494 to 610. It's not a lot, but it's a lot for me in the situation I'm currently in. So that would be like 23.5% in just a few days.
Yeah, and it all adds up.
Yeah. But okay, this one was one I missed then, or I broke
I did
even.
the same thing essentially. I say that I did it worse than you because I sold out early. But this is me looking in hindsight.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Did you look at anything else than what we have covered? Because I can't remember so many other tickers.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure I looked at stuff. I was definitely in names. I got stopped out. Angiodynamics, I got stopped out of. I believe I bought that on Thursday.
What was the name?
And that one fell apart real quick.
This one, ANGO.
ANGO, yep.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. I also took that one, and got stopped out later in the same day.
Yeah, and it's good to pull up examples of ones that fail because I mean we're showing you some of the ones that have worked out and whatnot, and or they worked out but we weren't in them.
But here's like
this is an example of where it just fails. It looks good at one point. That looked like a clear breakout.
Yeah, it did.
And that's why on some of these things too, like good rules of thumb are not to chase these things. And also too to have your stop loss tight.
Yeah,
because it can look like the perfect setup and it just breaks down. It just doesn't work.
I was about to say, like, how thankful are you for the stop here? Because here it saved you.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just something that's part of the structure of it, and you have to just accept that. You can't let your emotions override you following your rules.
Yeah. And
you got to think, guys. We're talking about swing trading. Number one, as always, not financial advice. Any of this, please do not just do this. Talk to your fiduciary and figure out if this is something that you want to try and work with those guys or gals. But at the same time, there's just you're just statistically not going to hit all these. Like you're going to miss more often than you hit. If you hit more often than you miss, then you're going to do well. You're going to do real well. But that's much harder to do. And like I said, this was a weird period. This week was tough.
Yeah,
The two biggest news, and actually the Fed came out too and said that they don't, the chance of them dropping the interest rate is less likely. So you got three major macro type news going on that's all bearish. And the fact that the week ended it didn't end that far down, that's pretty bullish in of itself. And then on top of that too, there was a lot of times where the start of the day looked ugly and it looked better by the end of the day, or the start of the day looked great and by the end of the day it looked ugly. So it's a tough environment right now. And maybe I shouldn't even be trading in this period.
Yeah.
But it's going to take time for me to develop that kind of situational awareness where I'm really noticing, like, okay, on this week, I look at and I see this many stocks are up, these many are in breakouts, these many are at 52-week highs. Those are all things I'm looking at. And, but I have to solidify those numbers in my head of like, what's a good week? What's a bad week? When I say these numbers come in constantly, that means that, this is a bad time to be trading. When I see, really good weeks, I'm like, oh yeah, we're back. Like, you should be buying any signal that you get that looks good. Maybe increase your holding time, increase your stop loss, blah, blah, blah. But that's just going to take time. And, I haven't been doing it long enough. And I think at this point, my entrances, my rules are all pretty solid. So now looking at the bigger picture is something that's just going to take longer to develop.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, technically we're still up for the year, right? For like the S&P.
Yeah.
Yeah. So still up, not by much.
I think it was at least a couple of days this week when I was running the scans, I couldn't find anything for a long time. And then, okay, one ticker popped up maybe or two, but it was very limited in some of the days. I think it was Tuesday and Wednesday or some, I don't remember which days, but it was a couple of the days that I was like, nah, I don't see much today,
Yeah, and the benefit of doing this too is there is days that you just don't see much. So like,
yeah,
it's kind of easy. You log on, you look around, you're like, nah, I'm not really seeing much, and there you go, there's your day. Like,
yeah, exactly. It was a bit like that. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think we're fortunate in another thing about being a fundamental investor is the fact that before my holding periods were much longer. So I feel like day traders and whatnot, they probably are extremely impatient in terms of like feeling like they need to kind of find something, like they got to be doing something. And there's a huge advantage to us not feeling like that.
Yeah.
If I don't do anything on a day, I don't really care.
No.
But either way.
Yeah.
Other than that, you got anything else to add?
No, I think I'm just looking a bit on some of the names that I have here that we haven't spoken about, but I didn't focus so much on them in the week, so I don't have so much to say, I think, on some of these.
Yeah, I gotta re-go through my watch list and update that. Hopefully either today or tomorrow. One thing, you guys, if you go on the YouTube page, I adjusted it because we've been doing the 6:30 a.m. stream. I know it's early, but this kind of works the best for us. So we're going to continue to do this stream, and I basically have put the weekday streams on hold. I know I thought I was going to be able to do more, but it's just turned out I'm busier at home than I was hoping I would be. It's still not a chance, or there's still a chance I'll do maybe a weekday stream. But I will say with swing trading too, like it's good to go over stuff, but at the same time, there's only so much like you can go over, and I don't want to like just be scrolling through charts. I know that's helpful for some people, but there's sometimes it's like, we can only do this so often where I think the content's going to be better than it would be as if like we're doing 3 streams. Like back when we were doing fundamentals and stuff, there's so many companies to look at. There's so much to dig into that you could spend every day, 10 hours doing it. But when it comes to this style, I mean, the whole point of this style is you're narrowing down the window of stocks that you're looking at to each day to maybe like 10. And, you know, when you're only looking at 10 stocks and you're not real, you know, the news matters and stuff like that, but you don't have to really do this deep dive that you normally had to with fundamentals in these longer holding periods.
No.
You know, I could look at those 10 names, and within, you know, 10 minutes, I can tell you if any of them were interesting. And at that point, I'm just kind of coasting for the rest of the day, and I'll keep checking things just to see if anything's moved or anything starts to pop up. But other than that, there's not much to do.
No.
So, and when I'm going to make a move, I make it, you know, it's quick. So it's just a little bit different in style. So I think as of now, we're going to keep the weekly one up like we've been doing. But I don't see as much benefit of us doing multi-weeks. I mean, as always, if you guys have questions about tickers or you want to go into the fundamentals of companies and stuff like that, we're still happy to do that. I still enjoy all that. I still love looking and learning a business. Yeah. And like I said, I do have another portfolio where I'm still doing that. So it's just different. So it's not to say we can't, you know, and maybe what we could do is, you know, going forward, maybe do one stream that's more fundamentals and more deep value, how we used to do, and another stream that's more this kind of side. But it's definitely transitioned from you know, a traditional deep value style to much more obviously swing trading. So for better or for worse, you know, so far I feel like I've managed my risk much better doing this, but I could also see how this would all have really helped me out when I was doing value investing. So,
for sure.
You know, I just had always assumed that because of where I was buying, my margin of safety was all based on that, but I still should have kept in stop losses and stuff like that, which initially I did have that in, and I took it out, essentially because I got greedy.
I remember
trying to hit returns. So
I remember we talked about when we did the deep value style that it would be interesting to read a little bit of the technical analysis books, and we just postponed it a bit, right?
Yeah, definitely I did. And, you know, it's one of those things too, where until I knew who to listen to, you know, I don't necessarily blame myself for not knowing, you know, what to look for in technical analysis. Like, you know, fundamental investing was easy because people are easily able to say, oh, you should read security analysis and One Up on Wall Street and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So many different books, you know, The Intelligent Investor. There's like a bunch of like staples that someone can just be like, just read these. And if this appeals to you, you'll understand it. Where with technicals, there's so much out there. There's so many styles. You know, I had thought of technicals and more as just kind of day trading. I didn't even realize that swing trading was like a thing. And then I kind of started looking at swing trading more on technicals, just like as a style. When I was doing some backtracking, I was like, you know, and if I would have just kind of done this, it would have worked. And then all of a sudden people are like, yeah, that's swing trading. That's a whole style. And I'm like, oh, like this is already a thing. So then all of a sudden, you know, I started to have a few swing traders and they're like, oh, read these books. This is specifically this style. And then it clicked for me like immediately. I'm like, okay, this is this is kind of the part I feel like I was missing. Is to have both sides of it. You know, and like I say, I really think having the fundamental edge on top of having, you know, a swing trading style can really, really give me results. You know, and it's not like I'm crazy killing the market yet, but I've seen huge success, you know, essentially. And as I limit my mistakes now, if I continue to limit the mistakes, I could do really well. So it's just slowly working on getting to that point, and I'm getting closer. You know, at this point I'm profitable. And between this and last year, I'm basically tied with what the S&P's results were. So, well, that's not great because, you know, you're putting in all this work and, you know, you could have just invested in the S&P. We'll see. We'll see going forward, because like I said, if I wasn't making some of the mistakes I was making before, which I've set rules in place now, so I would not do those things, I would have been killing the S&P. So I find as soon as you're doing that, it's all worth it.
Yeah, no, we're going to
stick to it. Above what the S&P gives you is massive.
We're going to stick to it and see where it goes, and it will be very interesting. It has been very interesting so far, and I think I think it will be. I'm encouraged by everything, and I'm encouraged to learn more and move forward. And you know, that day when we got into USCG, that was a very good. You know, you get the taste for it.
Yeah, and I mean USCG is just kind of luck, to be honest. It's
Yeah.
not like, but it does go to show you that when there's no resistance and the support's there, one of these things can just break out.
Yeah.
And like I said, for every one of those that you hit, it just puts you in such a good spot. So
Yeah.
And since I've been doing this, I would say you come upon those stocks maybe once or twice a month.
Yeah,
And
but
if
it
you can
doesn't
catch
need to
them
move.
on those stocks, and you can play them decently through whatever day that they take off,
Yeah.
you can put yourself in a position that you can make a yearly return in a day,
Yeah.
which
But I
is
mean,
which is kind of wild to think.
It doesn't. No one of us expected it to move over 100%, but it doesn't need to. Like, if something quickly moves up after you buy it, based on everything that you have done in the analysis, that's just very encouraging, you know.
Right, and you know, like I said, I've edited my screens and whatnot to make sure that when I am looking, those kind of stocks are ones that will pop up.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
for
because
sure.
you definitely got to make sure that you're focusing on the ones that work.
Yeah, yeah. Eliminate the noise.
Yeah, because there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it that just won't work for you. And
That's
like I said, I can narrow down a 5,000 or 6,000 stock universe into 20 stocks
Yeah.
on any given day.
That was my, and I'm sure other people have the same. But that was my most big mistake, I think, in the beginning. That because a lot of these stocks that we are eliminating, they look good on like a pattern. They have the pattern, but there's a lot of other things that are not good with it, you know.
Yeah, and that's, you know, it just goes back to showing a lot of times that, you know, the technicals are just one part of the piece.
Yeah.
It's a big part. But honestly, I think, like I said, I think the supply and demand side matters more. The chart just allows you to better understand that.
Yeah.
And then, as always, the fundamental narrative is why things move. Whether it's, you know, for actually a business improving, or it's because it's got some hype about the story. Either one works. And then it's all really portfolio management and setting some kind of buy and sell rules.
Yeah.
You know, there's only 4 things you can do to really adjust things, and that's set where you buy something, how much you're going to buy of it, how long your holding period is, and then you know, what your sell is going to be. Those are the only 4 things you can really do.
Yeah.
You know, you can choose what you go into, you can choose what you buy it, you can choose your sizing, and then after that, all you can do is choose when to sell it.
Yeah.
So if you focus on those 4 things,
make sure you track all of that.
Yeah, and then track it. I mean, that's how you improve and notice where you're weak and, you know, where you're strong. And
yeah. All right. Should we end it for today then?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't even have up YouTube. So if anyone was commenting, I'm sorry I didn't.
No, I don't think we had any comments today. But I've seen some people watching. So thanks for everyone who tags along and join the Discord. We post a lot of stuff that we not necessarily go into detail about here on the Discord. We have different channels there, and we are trying now to maybe be a bit more active in terms of throwing tickers out there and stuff like that. So anyone who joins there will I think benefit even more just by looking at the stream.
Yeah, definitely. So
yeah, everything is free, of course. there's nothing here that costs money.
Yeah, right. All right, everybody. Well, have a good weekend. Johnny, have a good weekend.
Same to you.
Hopefully from here, keep seeing the kind of improvement we all want to see.
Yeah, and February will be good.
February is going to be a good month. I agree.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
It's got.